Good afternoon, and welcome to another ironic introduction to another video. Another video where I talk about something I think is important or relevant while hammering out my arena grind in the background. This video is actually going to be related to a video I'll be posting simultaneously called Why I Intentionally Streak into Death Squads. And this video is going to be about learning to enjoy the grind, something you probably clicked on the title for in the first place. So when you do as many arena fights as I do in a day, there's definitely like multiple ways to cope with the amount of time you are just sinking into the arena. The first one is my no-look strategy. That's for like when I'm at home and I'm catching up on YouTube content, I'm watching anime, I'm watching TV shows or movies. I caught up in the entire Marvel cinema universe this way as far as movies go, while playing this game with my no-look strategy. And that's one way of coping, and I call that way of coping pretty much like reclaim. That is like trying to reclaim as much time from the grind as possible. You want to make the grind as mindless as possible, as effortless as possible, so that you can use as much of your focus as possible to multitask something else, be it eating, because I have gotten really adept at playing with the phone on the table and only playing with like one hand, specifically my left hand, because I need my right hand to eat. And that's like reclaim, and that's one way of coping, and that way of coping works for an extended period of time, or if you are able to like multitask really well like I am, it is a good way to watch anime or something. But unfortunately, this method makes the game not enjoyable in the long run, and it's really only good if you like absolutely have to grind something or really pushing for a champion. Or units, and really just don't want to be thinking, because like some days I'll work like 14 hours and I get home and I want to grind for 3 hours. I just don't have the brain energy left to put that time in, and so I've developed the no look strategy as a means of being able to put that time in without like having to pay attention at all. And it's actually a strategy I pulled up for another game, the other game I play, Grand Blue Fantasy, that I just modified and brought to Marvel Contest of Champions, as it's really just a matter of changing the controls / the way you play. Very similar concept, completely different method. But the other coping mechanism is really just learning to enjoy it, right? So finding ways to find this grind enjoyable, and that's where like the whole intentionally streaking into death squads. So what I do is once I've passed a certain point in these arenas, I bring my champions in and I don't try to set up an infinite streak. If it happens, it happens. And I have accidentally done it occasionally in like the basic arena, and I think one time in the featured arena I must have like barely streaked into it and then found myself there. But maybe that was a catalyst arena. But anyways, the point is that I set up my 3 times multiplier, and then I run my highest ranked champions all the way down until that multiplier ends, and then I switch arenas. And then I run my highest champions down until that multiplier ends, or until I hit my rank 1 champions for the 4 stars, just because once I hit my rank 1s, then I'll go back and I'll reset my streak in the arena that I previously lost it in. Like I already lost my 4-star featured streak, because apparently I cannot talk and win a death squad fight at the same time. So I still need to work on that multitasking ability, but it definitely does take a lot of focus as you start to climb up and the fights get a lot harder. But that being said, these death squads, they're actually like really fun fights. Like I think that for me, at least, what makes Marvel so fun is like the 2 aspects of the game. So you have one, beating up opponents that are just strictly stronger than you, but there's no real core mechanic to it besides their own abilities, and the only reason they're hard is because they have a special 3 you can't push them into. They hit hard enough that you have to dodge every special. And if you get attacked, like just a standard combo will punish you a lot. And I think this is a lot of fun because you get to learn things like that cheeky hit. If he had gone unstoppable there, I would have gotten that hit for free. And it's a little stressful, but at the same time, it's like it makes it really enjoyable. I have to focus really hard and try. And when you are doing 200 fights a day, 300 fights a day, let me tell you, having to like actually pay attention gets really enjoyable, especially since for like 80% of my fights I'm not paying attention at all, so I think it's necessary. And that's how I've kind of like convinced myself to enjoy the fight. But also, it's just like this is like really good practice. Like the first time I went for uncollected, I got absolutely obliterated by Act 5.1.1, and then I finally beat that, and then I got completely destroyed by Act 5.1.2. And so I started doing this in Arena, and then when I finally went back to Act 5.1.2, like 3 weeks later, my roster wasn't insanely better. Like it was better, but it wasn't so much better that it made up for my player skill. The real reason that I was able to start clearing and push all the way towards uncollected was because I had gotten to be such a better player just from grinding Arena. Because when you fight these higher PI opponents, you learn to parry properly, to dexterity properly, but more importantly, you get to see such a wide variety of champions that like Gwenpool's specials, guillotine specials, and like really honing your abilities on your own characters. You get so much out of them. So like at least for the roster, like the higher up on my roster you go, the more comfortable I am against those champions because of how frequently I'm playing them. Like Black Widow I can dodge without even thinking about it. Luke Cage I can dodge without even thinking about it. Blade I'm still working on as he's newer, but a lot of times I make these mistakes against champions because, you know, visually I'm like trying to punish them for their long special or their long heavy attack, and then I just make the mistake of like, oh, I didn't realize there was an extra kick there, or oh, I didn't realize there was an extra, you know, an extra shot. Like someone who I always do it against, I think, is Cable. He like does a double shot, a grenade shot, and then he does like a one last fire, and I always dive in after that fire because for me it's just like logically I'm like, oh, grenade shot, that ends it, and then he does one more charged energy bolt, and I'm like, okay, that's unnecessary. And I run into it every time, and sometimes it gets me killed. So yeah, I mean, you could call it Stockholm syndrome. You could call it, you know, convincing myself that hard fights are fun. But I think that the real reason we all play Marvel is that it is fun to beat an opponent who has double your PI. It's really satisfying, and the arena lets you do that without stupid nodes. And I call them stupid nodes, but I do think they add interest to the game, and that is what makes the game fun, because it forces you to play mechanically different each time, slash maybe bring a different champion that you normally wouldn't in your questing appearance. But the thing is that you only have a limited amount of energy in this game, and if you're like me and you're trying to min-max this event where you're full clearing everything because that's going to give you the most RNG chances, you know, you find yourself in a position where you're eventually clearing the lower difficulties of the event, and the only times you're ever doing a challenging fight is when you are pushing an alliance quest or pushing an alliance war. It's just not fun. Like in the long run, it's just not an enjoyable time. So that said, if let's say my death squads are somewhere between rounds 13 and 17, there's only like 4 or 5 rounds of death squads, 4 or 5 rounds where I'm like really trying hard, and then it goes right back to mindless tapping for setting up my 3-time streak, and then like relatively, like I could even play with one hand for a lot of like streaks 6 through 9, and then back to 10. And so for the most part, it's only like a third of the time that I'm actually really trying hard, and I'm not even able to multitask at all without losing. And because of that, I think that arena can get incredibly dull, and that's where the whole like mentally taxing part of arena is your brain is so turned off that you feel like falling asleep. At least that's where I feel. Is like I'm like, because I've turned my brain off in order to grind arena, I feel like falling asleep. But these death squads, these intense fights, they make me wake up, and I get excited to play. And ever since I started forcing myself into these, you know, death squad streaks, I've really been enjoying the arena grind a lot more. And even in lower arenas, you know, these summoner trials, and these 3-star featured, because my champions aren't max ranked, these do feel like death squads where like they're twice my PI, because I'm running in with like rank 2 champions, and it's really enjoyable. I mean, one day I'm gonna rank the champions up anyways because it's just so much more time efficient. But right now, I'm learning to enjoy it, and maybe when I'm in an infinite streak and I can do infinite streaks across the board, I'll enjoy that as well. But honestly, by then I'm hoping I can switch to like doing streams or something, and then the entertainment will come with socializing, and not in the actual game itself. But that said, as always, this video has gone on longer than it should have, but I will talk to you later.